Okay, guys, so as I promised, I'm going to keep you updated on new generative AI technology that could both be a potential threat to us, but also a useful tool for us. And this definitely fits into both of those categories. Don't worry, we're not going to just jump right back into AI video after video. I'm only going to do these videos when something really important pops up. And this is definitely one that I think is very important because we need to be aware of the changing landscape and the changing technology and how it can potentially threaten us or how we could potentially use it, and usually how we can use it to benefit us. So this is generating audio for video. This is released by Google DeepMind. You can click on the link below if you want to follow along and read it and check out all these examples for yourself, but I will play in this video some of the examples of what it's able to do. Essentially, this release and this new technology is something where they're able to pair and use this with their video generated models, VO, which is AI generated video, to create score right here, sound effects, which is sound design as well, or dialogue. So basically characters or even narration in it. Now they admit in this paper that it's not great at dialogue. That's still something they're kind of ironing out the kinks on. But in terms of score and sound design, sound effects, it's pretty good at it. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's not on the level of probably, average or great composers or producers, but it can get the job done for probably a lot of content that's going to be coming out online fairly soon. So it's definitely a powerful technology that we need to be aware of and know what its limitations are, what it can do, what it can't do, and how we could potentially use it, okay? So what's really interesting about it is they've included some of the examples here. So the first one I want to play for you is the prompt that they shared, and then we're going to play the AI-generated video, but most importantly, I want you to listen to the audio that it was able to produce. So this was the prompt, okay? Cinematic, thriller, horror film, music, meaning put music in it. Okay, that's all they said. Tension kind of helps describe and direct where the music goes. Ambience, footsteps on concrete. Okay, so with these prompts, with these text prompts, natural language prompts, it was able to generate this video and this audio. So pay attention to mostly the audio and how it's syncing up, it's synchronizing with what you're seeing, the visuals you see on screen. So what you probably noticed is that it was matching the scene changes. When it faded to black and went to a new section or a new scene, the music would have its thud, it would kind of dip down and come back up. So it's obviously noticing and paying attention to and able to recognize when the change of pace needs to happen. That's pretty impressive that it can do that. Also, if you noticed when the character was walking in the very beginning, did you hear the footsteps that were synchronized exactly when his feet were walking? So that's something that is pretty impressive that I could do. Now, it did sound like snow. It didn't sound like he was walking maybe in a concrete hall. But regardless, it is able to notice and recognize with the pixels going on there when a sound effect needs to happen. So it can sync things up fairly efficiently. So that's obviously something that can be, really helpful for people that have been in charge of sound design all these years, but also something that we should be aware of, that if this can be done this easily and this quickly by a model like that, where does that leave us and how should we be responding to that? So again, I will talk about that at the very end. So stay in there. And this is the next one, which is kind of interesting. This is more of an animated one that shows that there's a cute baby dinosaur that chirps, there's a jungle ambience, and an egg cracking. So with this prompt, this is the video and audio that was able to be generated. So obviously it's able to, pick up on those prompts to generate all that you heard there and to match that chirping sound with the dinosaur's mouth opening. That's the kind of key point of this technology that I think is really, really interesting and obviously very, very powerful for people that are going to be in charge of doing that. Now, one thing you might notice as well, these are very short clips. So this is 11 seconds. That one was 8 seconds. I'm going to play you another one here. This is just 9 seconds. This is just a drummer on stage at a concert surrounded by flashing lights and a cheering crowd. Notice again, though, how accurately, it's not perfect, but how good, close it's getting to synchronizing the sound of a drummer playing with what these hands with these drumsticks are doing. So it's not perfect, but it definitely is doing a pretty damn good job, I'll be honest, of being able to synchronize and make that sound and look good enough. To a non-drummer, that's going to pass. Most people are going to think like, yeah, that was a real drummer that played that. It obviously sounds like a real drummer. I play drums, so I obviously can see where some of the errors and issues with that performance were, but obviously that's something that could be quote unquote good enough, okay? So there's other examples you guys can check out, but again, 12 seconds, 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Can this do something that's 30 seconds, a minute long, 2 minutes long, 5 minutes long? What kind of issues would it run into when it has a much longer amount of video to be able to get through, and creating that consistency and that sort of coherence throughout a longer video? That remains to be seen, but obviously it can do a shorter amount, so maybe it's just a matter of time before it can do a longer bit as well. So, but I want to really focus on this part of it. So it's able to also create soundtrack and really, really great, compelling score. I think some of these score and these soundtracks sound pretty good. I mean, not going to be A-level, Hollywood quality, like an A-list, project, a Hollywood project, but for social media content or AI-generated content, for most people, this is going to definitely do enough. It's going to be good enough for them. So here's a prompt they had. It was just a spaceship hurtled through the vastness of space, stars streaking past it, and high-speed sci-fi. Let's take a listen to what it generated visually and auditorially. So you can hear the sound of the engines of the plane, of the jet, of the spaceship. And also as we kind of zoom in a little bit closer to that spaceship, you kind of hear the music sort of transition with it as well. It's kind of a subtle thing, but obviously pretty impressive that it's able to pick up on that change in just visual dynamics. Now let's say you were scoring that and you're like, I didn't really like that, let's try something else. You just basically need to prompt it again and say ethereal cello atmosphere, and this is what you can get instead. So similar, but obviously kind of a different sort of approach to it. And then this one feels like, to me, it's just much more just sound design. There's a little bit of music kind of buried in the background, but much more about sound design. So spaceship, it's kind of the same prompt as the first one, but take a listen to what it does just as a sound design prompt. So obviously there's definitely some kind of low music down there underneath it. So one of the reasons why it's working so well and why it's doing what it's doing is that it's able to, I'm going to show you where they talk about it. They added more information to the training process, which included AI-generated annotations with detailed descriptions of sound and transcripts of spoken dialogue. So as they were training this model that had video and audio, the pixels included with it, they had these AI-generated annotations. So when there were footsteps or when there were explosions or where somebody talking, there would be an AI-generated annotation that would just pop up on screen to say, hey, right here at 3 minutes and 6 seconds, these are footsteps, or this is an elephant, or this is whatever. So these annotations, I think, is what is making and allowing this model to be able to have these pinpoint precise sound design elements added to the videos, okay? So obviously they're doing more research underway, but here's also a really important and game-changing element of this. You don't even have to prompt this model to get it to create audio for you. You can literally just give it a video and say, you take care of what this needs, okay? So this was basically just a video that they entered into this model, and this is what the model produced in terms of adding audio to this video. So you guitar players know that that is not what that person was playing there. But for most people's purposes, for the general public, that probably will be good enough. And the same thing here. This is just a video of a cyclist basically going down a steep hill and just putting that into the model. No prompt, not telling it what you want. This is what it's able to come up with. So obviously it's got an ability to be doing some pretty interesting things there. This is kind of a funny one, and they're actually just being honest to say like, well, our dialogue features are, we can do it, but it's just not great. So this is what they did for this prompt is they put music and a transcript that says, this turkey looks amazing. I'm so hungry. And this is what it was able to generate.
This turkey looks amazing. I am so hungry.
So obviously this little character is the one that's kind of doing most of the talking, but all their mouths are kind of moving, and so it's kind of really unclear as to what's happening. So they do have some work to do on that one. That might be something that could take a long time before they're able to do that. So where do we go with this? Okay, so this is kind of where my hopeful, optimistic, and empowering message begins of the video. Okay. Number one, as I'm seeing this technology, by the way, before we get into that, they're obviously talking about how they have a commitment to safety and transparency. Nothing here says about where they got the data to train this model. So Google, if you want to start with some transparency, just let us know where you're training this. I'm sure YouTube's videos were in the training data somewhere, and maybe you have rights to be able to do that. But that would kind of help. If you want to be transparent, that would be, for me at least, something that I always want to look for. But of course, can't find anything about that. It's just sort of the axe that I always keep grinding with these companies. But let's get back into this. So is this going to be used in sync licensing? Is this definitely something that could be used instead of a composer like me or like you for projects? Unknown at this point. Like, for all the issues that I've been talking about on this channel for so long, legally, if you're training on copyrighted music and it's going to generate something that was likely similar to something copyrighted, that could open up some legal issues for people who want to use this commercially. Will it be able to be used commercially? We don't know. How accurate can this be? Obviously, you can see some limitations. Some of it's really good, some of it's not so good. If a music supervisor or an editor or creator of any kind of content is using a model that's constantly giving them headaches and frustrations and not getting it right, it's only a matter of time before they just give up on that and say, like, okay, cool tech, interesting idea. It doesn't work. It's not ready for prime time. I'm going back to using just human composers because they usually can just get it right even faster. Even though this is supposed to be something that speeds up the process, it might not be. How long, does it take to be able to put in a full, let's say, a TV episode to say, all right, here's my reality TV show. You generate whatever it is, what model it is. You generate all the music for it. How quickly can that be done? Will it get most of it right? Will it get none of it right? Will it get half of it right? And then you have to spend most of the time going in and kind of editing out the parts that it didn't get right? So that's where we don't really know how this is really going to shake out, and if it can be used. Will it be adopted or used by more commercial aspects like the TV and film sync licensing world? Couldn't tell you. I don't think anybody can, guys. So that's definitely something that we have to be realistic about. But as I'm seeing this pop up, I can definitely envision and see a new emerging marketplace popping up into the world, which is going to be primarily social media based, where users, me and you, people that maybe always wanted to create like a Pixar animated, short or a movie or a series or something like that. These tools, as they get better and better, they're definitely going to be looking at the sort of general public to use more and more of these. If you've noticed, most of these generative AI tools are aimed at social media users. It's you and I, basically, is their target market. They want to get us to pay them $9.99 a month or $20 a month or whatever it is to use it. So I can definitely see a lot of use cases where people are going to be using this as kind of like amateur creators and creating fun content or funny memes or funny videos or compelling emotional videos or personalized videos for their friends, their family, their coworkers, businesses, all that kind of stuff. So I can definitely see a whole new, like brand new emerging marketplace for video, audio content going into the world. Will we composers benefit from any of that? I think a lot of it honestly comes down to that fair use defense. If generative AI companies can train off of copyrighted music without our consent and they don't have to pay us for it, not likely. I don't think we're going to see much upside personally, financially from that kind of a new marketplace. If they are required to basically go pay and get consent, maybe have revenue share models or one-time fees with creators, composers and producers like you and I, then yes, I can definitely see us kind of finding a whole new series of clients to license our music to. All these generative AI companies that are starting to look for new content to license and train their models with, that can definitely be a new source of revenue for us. But again, until the courts weigh in on that fair use defense for copyrighted training, we really don't know where that's going to go, okay? Now, here's the positive part of it. How can we use this as a tool? And I definitely could have used this very recently in one of my gigs. When you work with a production music library, there might be times where you are asked to compose for a commercial, a theme. That's the one thing that I just did with Major League Baseball, maybe an ad or a promo where they don't want to use something pre-made, but they want you to compose something custom for some visuals that they had. So basically, you're doing kind of what this model can do very, very quickly. And when I was going through that recent process trying to compose for a theme, I struggled in the very beginning. It took me 3 or 4 iterations on something before I had my first official submission, and that wasn't the submission that they ended up liking. It was close enough that they liked the direction, and we sort of did some revisions to change it. But a model like this would be kind of interesting where I can upload, now that's the whole thing. Would I feel safe uploading some private, video content that I got from a client that I'm definitely not allowed to share publicly? That was very clear to me. Could I release it or use it with a model like this? Well, let's say that I could, and I could have some reasonable certainty that it wouldn't be shared by them, and I can have some privacy with it. And it could be an idea generator for me where I'm like, I don't know where I should go with this. I kind of think it should be a rock track, but the pacing of these visuals, I'm not figuring out what my BPM should be. Your BPM is very important when you're composing to make sure you're hitting kind of the beats, as you saw with some of these videos. So it could kind of help maybe generate some ideas before you get started, and whatever it comes up with, and maybe you generate 5 different ideas, you're like, that's interesting. I like how it's doing that. And it can basically get you started and get your creative juices for maybe where you want to go. Of course, not using its chords, its melody, its direction, but maybe using the BPM that it comes with, or coming up with just, some idea based on what it's doing. That can definitely help us big time in this industry. The second use case is going to be really useful and helpful for TV and film clients themselves. Most TV and film clients that are going to go license human-made music put temp music into their promos, their commercials, their films, their trailers, their TV shows, whatever it is. They usually put really expensive, high-quality copyrighted music into their content before they go reach out to people like you and I, because they want to get a sense of, would this work with Hans Zimmer's track playing behind it? And they're not going to go use Hans Zimmer's track, but it's just there as a temporary track to see how does this feel now with this kind of music behind it. Or they go use a very popular artist, and they put it in the background. And a lot of times I've gotten these opportunities and these gigs where you get sent a commercial that has like a Drake song in the background. They're like, we're not using Drake. We can't use Drake. He's too expensive. That's not in our budget. We need something that kind of has his vibe, has his feel, but obviously is not him and is not going to be stepping on his toes creatively or copyright wise, right? So a lot of TV and film clients might be able to use something like this to get the ball rolling, get their creative juices flowing, and sort of get a sort of clearer direction on what they want. And that would actually help us out a lot, because if they can send us the visuals with a temp audio track in it, with something like you saw here, that can let us know, oh, okay, that's what you want to do. We know kind of what you liked. We can sort of use that as inspiration and then create a different use case where we definitely can guarantee them copyright protection, because it's a human being making it as opposed to an AI generated model, which right now the courts are indicating, and the Copyright Office, I should say, is indicating there is not going to be copyright protection for that. So those are 2 use cases that I can see us actually using this over and over again, but we'll see obviously in the future as this plays out. But again, let's zoom out to my kind of 10,000 foot view reframe. If this is still depressing to you, if this feels very overwhelming, if this feels like, what's the point? No matter how good I get, this thing is just going to get better and better. I totally understand that. It's a struggle. This is not like something that we have easy answers for right now, because the future is uncertain. But remember, all of those kind of defeatist and depressing thoughts usually are coming in the form of, why is this all happening to me? Why does Google have to mess with us? Why are these companies going into this direction to potentially replace us? Why is this happening to us or to me? That kind of frame definitely will leave you feeling much more disempowered and much more feeling like there's no hope and there's no future and there's no reason to continue going. And that's not going to do good for any of us at all. So what I select and opt to do, and it's definitely an option mentally, is to reframe it in terms of, why is this one happening for me? So Google, why did you put this one out for my benefit? Did they really put it out for my benefit, for Jesse's benefit here in Sync My Music? No, I don't think they obviously did that. But I'm going to choose to interpret it that way. I'm going to see, how can I use this? Is this a tool that I can use? Is this something that's going to help me up my game? One thing you might have noticed in a lot of these examples is they felt a bit cliche, like kind of like you've seen or heard these examples somewhere before. And it's definitely the model or the pattern I'm noticing with a lot of generative AI content out there. It's really good at rehashing yesterday's stuff. So soundtracks, sound design, things that have been done 1,000 times before, it'll probably be really good at that, which means that we can no longer be in that business anymore of creating yesterday's music and yesterday's patterns and yesterday's formulas. We need to be inventive. We need to be thinking about our music differently. We need to be creating some more interesting, unique, personalized approaches to our music, and something that's really uniquely us as much as we possibly can, in whatever way we can possibly do it, with our recording approach, our instruments we use, vocals, songwriting skills, all the things that we can possibly do. So that, again, this is one of those things where it's like, yep, we're getting squeezed again. You can probably all feel it. I feel it. We definitely feel like we're getting squeezed. But again, then now it's up to us to decide, what do we do with this squeeze that we feel? Do we cave into it? Do we give up? Or do we accept the challenge and we go, got it, game on, Google. Thank you for making me better. I'm definitely going to take this as an opportunity to challenge, to potentially use this as a tool for myself and to up my game and to think of myself as a much more higher quality premium option for my TV and film clients to potentially use moving forward. And we cannot get lazy. We cannot be making music that sounds, some of you are into sound design, but most of you guys are probably into the music and the score game of all this. We cannot be making music that sounds very, very similar or extremely like all the music we've already heard before. There needs to be an element of familiarity. Of course, we don't want to be making purely experimental music, but we got to bring our own unique twist to this game as well. So that's where this topic of Google's new announcement will begin and end. I promise I won't be making any other videos on this unless there's some massive update or something that comes out that I think is really useful or informative. But let me know what you guys think. Are you excited about this? Are you depressed about this? Are you neutral about this? We'd love to hear it. So make sure you do leave your comments right below. I'd love to hear from them.